You could even send them an email, send them a message, write a comment. What do you think about this? The crash out? Because that's how I felt. What was that? I am an incredible, very dedicated ATLA fan. I even have my in-concert ATLA mug. I have so many thoughts. A lot of ATLA news has come out and I just needed a place to speak them out. Want to say that I'm coming from an angle of a person who is Southeast Asian themselves. And while I'm not a historian, I do have some knowledge that I thought I would share and give you guys my input. Essentially doing a media decompression session in a kind of commonplace. This show is so extremely coveted and I grew up on this show. The first immediate reaction that I had to the film is like, what happened to the noses? Why does it look like, it looks more like Voltron than it does Avatar? To see that they kind of anime-fied it really did not sit right with me, but alas, that was a very minor thing in comparison to the floodgates that it opened after. First thing I want to address are the Southeast Asian motifs that you see on screen right now. As I said, I am Southeast Asian myself. I also have this fountain pen ink that I really wanted to showcase. So this is a Filipino fountain pen ink company called Troublemaker in the color Foxglove. I absolutely love this purple. Language here is very relevant. It is an extension of last week's video on the theory of knowledge and what language tells us about what we know. When the announcement for Seven Havens came out and they showed the character design process of the film, their idea to replace the language, I really lost my mind. The absolute audacity to do such a thing. Especially when you're taking inspiration from all across Asia. It is in such bad taste historically. So for context, this script that you see here is called Baybayin, and this is one of the native writing styles in the Philippines. This writing style was eradicated over 330 plus years of colonization. And so now we use the Spanish alphabet and we've lost this language. And I'm so glad that this fountain pen company have decided to incorporate it into their branding because it vitalizes our heritage. As a child, it's digestible enough as a show for you to understand it and enjoy it. Growing up, every time I rewatched it at a new age, I learned and could find something new in the story. All of these complexities made it always an interesting watch. That's the reason why this show is so timeless. And it was so important to me that they nailed this movie. The character designs are great. And I love seeing Team Avatar interacting as adults. That was the main good thing, let's say. When I was younger, I didn't realize that I connected with this show so much simply because of how many things were recognizable to me. Like the designs of the living rooms or the food that they would eat and stuff like that. And that's why I've decided to incorporate these stickers that are very Southeast Asian, like with the mango sticky rice and food and all those sort of things. This is from the Thailand sticker pack that Midori produces. I mean, even a lot of the martial arts also in ATLA is not only East Asian inspired, but even the social systems, community building that you see in ATLA are also very Southeast Asian. And so to replace the language is in such bad taste. When you eradicate even something as simple as the alphabet over hundreds of years, you replace so much history, story, and indigenous knowledge that comes along with that alphabet, and you replace it with crazy activities. I really hope that they don't do it, or I hope that they don't continue in doing that. I already noticed that in Korra, they started to move away from any kind of cultural indicators, and it was sad to see, but I guess it does go hand in hand with the idea of globalization, and then people kind of take from each other's, or are inspired by each other's cultures in that way, but it's still not gonna make it any better. I understand Korra was more of the spiritual exploration of Avatar and the relationship between between like the human and the spiritual world, which was interesting. I just felt like the way that they were like starting to portray good and evil was so westernized. I like the idea of polarized, there is a clear example of good and a clear example of evil. Those two things are so, this is like a Marvel version of westernization. Like, I understand like there's like that yin and yang concept that they're trying to play off of, but I don't know, I feel like that this just, like, even with the apocalyptic feel of Seven Havens, it's like this dichotomy of explicitly good and explicitly evil is a very Western thing. It's a very foreign concept back home. Like, even our like superstitions or mythology or native stories, they don't include clear depictions of good and evil. Everything has its nuance, and everything includes both good and evil. Like, I even wrote here that the point of the Avatar is balance. Aang was not perfect himself. He is he himself is a representation of balance. Like, he embodies balance, but he is also the advocate of it. Aang's like greatest flaw is that he didn't know how to deal with the responsibility of being the Avatar. Through his experiences and like building relationships with Team Avatar, he was able to see that, you know, he was able to foster this group of people who would lift each other up and balance each other out. Like, they all have their like individual flaws, but they're so strong collectively. And that is like one of the main narratives in the show. And this also makes like the characters much more relatable, because having characters go through these arcs where they address their flaws or their shortcomings and combine the knowledge, the cultural differences, their different upbringings in ATLA, like, that's what makes them feel real. Yeah, I literally included this picture of the crash out because that's how I felt. Also, just to see that in the concept art, there was no embarrassment to write according to ChatGPT and leaving it on screen instead of asking a Southeast Asian person. Like, there are even Southeast Asian historians on YouTube that have free videos. You could even send them an email, send them a message, write a comment. What do you think about this? This is crazy, crazy, crazy work. There is like a weird like eradication of like original cultural references, but also in the simple like choice to redesign the noses, they've placed like Eastern philosophies over Southeast Asian and South Asian philosophies, which is like, why are we doing that? We're losing the nuance, we're losing the good and bad taste. This is not the direction I was hoping this to go. Like, I really did not expect to see the day where the enemy was inside the house of Avatar Studios. Like, I guess the point that I'm trying to come across in this video is that media literacy is very important, and it is equally important as viewers and as creators. When we eradicate anything that is special, meaningful, human in the story, anything relatable that's within the story, we result with something with such a flat and unimpactful tone. Like, I think the common consensus that I saw about this movie was that it's nice to see them as adults, but the actual plot of the story was not well written, or like, there was nothing captivating about the story itself. It was just nice to see them again. The movie's success is highly tied to the fact that seeing our beloved like characters in their adult lives is so like, I'm just like overwhelmed with a feeling of love for them. I guess this is all to say I really hope that Avatar Studios takes a turn for the better. I also heard that Seven Havens is going to be released all in one go, which is an interesting decision. Let me know what you guys think. I just needed some time to decompress this. Honestly, this isn't even half of my thoughts. I think this is just the emotional like reaction to everything that I've seen so far. I might do a deep dive into this later on and do a part 2 of this. Anyways, take care guys, and watch some good shows and write about it. Till next week, bye bye.